Today we're going to show you how to put studs in your hubs.
We're going to talk about wheel hubs, studs, lug nuts, and the sizes of things today to make your wheel spin perfect. We're going to talk about lug nuts, wheel hubs, studs, why they're different sizes, and how they're installed and what can happen. Right here in my hand, I have an old stud, an old hub with some studs in it, and you can see that the threads don't look the greatest. And this one's starting to look pretty shabby. This one broke off already, so we're going to show you how to replace those. Because you can't just unscrew them. You'll screw the threads up in the aluminum part and then it'll be junk. So the first thing we want to do is we want to try and see if we can force a lug nut over that to clean that threads up. Lug nuts are cheap, and right now it's already pretty tight, but with our wrench we can force that back and forth, and that's going on there okay. The next thing we got to do is we have this nice chamfer bit. So when you break that off clean and there's a big burr, you got to clean that burr off. We already did that, but this was the tool that we used for that. We just worked it around until it rounded the edge and made it nice and easy to get our lug nut back on. Now we can unscrew that stud and replace it. And at this point, it's a little rough, but it's going to come out. And with a few more turns, we're almost out. And then you can see how many metal shavings are on there, and it's not in very good shape. And I wouldn't reuse this nut as well. So the reason these studs get all gummed up is because you can see the serrades on the nut, and serrades dig into the aluminum, the shavings end up filling the threads, and then that's what binds it together. Like right now, that's a really smooth fit, but as soon as you get some of those metal shavings ground in there, doesn't fit so good. So that's why we are always telling you to wire brush your studs every time you take the wheel on and off to prevent that problem. So now this new stud will go right in. So to talk about a few other things here, we have two different size studs. We have a small one and we have a big one. On the right side of the car, if you keep on running these small studs, at some point there'll be enough pressure that it'll break this stud off and your wheel will come off. I never thought we'd be at the racetrack with a wheel off. One day we broke all the studs off a wheel. So on the right side of the car, you switch all the studs to this size, and then you have to drill out all your right side wheels to fit this bigger size stud. And like I said, you can get the lug nut, you can get them in a smooth, or you can get them in a serrated. This bigger size is really hard to find in the smooth. This one's pretty easy to find in a smooth, so we have a lot more of these smooth ones. If I can find them, I prefer the smooth ones. Okay, now we have our drill set up right here. We have a bit already on there, and we're gonna install some studs. So in our hub here, we gotta find the right hole that it goes into. There's two sets of holes so that you can put either size onto this unit. And then we can take our drill and we can screw those in. As you can see, they go in really pretty easy, pretty fast, no problems. We're going to leave a little bit of space in there. And you can see that we have a little bit of space in there. that space is going to be for our Loctite, because we want to lock these studs in so they don't come out when we go to take the lug nuts off. So this is blue Loctite, so it's medium strength. If you use red, it pretty much cements it in, and then if you break one, you won't be able to get it out. So we're going to take the blue. Whoop, that's a little too much, but we're going to put basically a dab of each. We're going to take our drill. We're going to put those all the way in, and bruisers come to help. And then at this point, we got them all loosely kind of in our hub. We're going to wipe off the excess. And then with our Allen wrench, we're going to take an Allen wrench and then this screwdriver. Be careful not to damage the threads. And we're going to snug those up ever so slightly to make sure that they are locked into place. That one's locked in. No, that one's locked in. So all those are locked in, and we've just replaced with the bigger studs. Then we can take our lug nut, we can check it on there. Feels good. So we're done with that portion. This is a rear hub. Now on the front hub, we have a choice. We can either put the studs in from this direction, or we could put the studs in from that direction, depending on the offset of the front wheel we want. And we have that choice on both sides. And so we're going to do that next. And after we get all these studs in, we'll come back and show you a few other things. So now we have all our studs in our wheel. You can see that they're different sizes. All the lug nuts on them. They're ready to be installed. You can get these hubs in red, silver. It's always good to use an anodized hub, because if the hub is anodized, it won't bind to the axle as hard. When you don't use anodized parts, they go and they metal corrode together, and then they're very difficult to get apart. So next we're going to install some of these hubs on the vehicle. So now we're going to replace this front hub. And the first thing we're going to do is take the nut off, the big nut. And you can see there's a little spacer on the back side right there. We want to make sure to have that spacer on the inside and outside. Now we're going to clean this up before we put the new one on, and we're going to re-grease it. Now we're going to put a little bit of grease on this hub. We shouldn't really need the grease because these are sealed bearings, but if anything goes wrong, something starts to bind, it's certainly not going to hurt anything. And then we're going to put our spacer on, and we're going to slide our hub on. Hub's on. Now we're going to put our outside spacer on. And then we're going to tighten the big spindle nut on there. Then we're going to get a wheel on there and see how it spins. We want to snug this nut off. We want to snug this nut up. And then you can feel how tight that is. And then we're going to back it off until we get a good spin on it. Since this is brand new bearings in here, they're a little tight. They will loosen up over time. There's no free play in there. Now there's just a tiny bit of free play. We're going to adjust that. There we go. We're done. All right, spin. No, I mean the wheel.
Oh.
Now we got our finished hub in place. We're nice and smooth. And the hub looks great. Make sure you subscribe, like our video, all that crap that I'm supposed to say that I just didn't say.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. See you at the racetrack.